Sawadika. My name is Kotchakorn Voraakhom. I'm actually talking to you from Bangkok, Thailand. And I'm very honored to be part of this masterclass. I'm a landscape architect, and as you may know that I'm coming from the city of water. And this depicts so much of the landscape and the way we live with the water, as many of foreigners may have called Bangkok as Venice of the East. Definitely, yes. We used to live with water, we used to live with the canals, and it's part of our daily life, food systems, and actually the way how we form the culture from being the farmers and being the agriculturalist, and also how the land flourished our plants and life. But nowadays, as you may know that at some point we have turned our back to the canal and then the waterways. It's like a drainage of the system of the landscape itself, but has been dumped and changed into road, very crowded city. As you can see that the whole city is very flat and used to be this kind of green or wetland, but nowadays actually being occupied through all this concrete pavement. And how could we not having a problem with water? And as you may know that Bangkok has ranking one of the most at-risk city when it's come to climate change and when it's come to flooding. This is the picture that depicts from the study from the New York Times and from the research that the impact of climate change from 2050, that some part, many part of the Bangkok will be under sea level. And 2050 doesn't sound very long from now. And I think that's really scare people when they look back into Bangkok. But living here is kind of sad to mention that there are so much ignorance about this impact, and there are not much conversation and actions ongoing on ground. So as a citizen from the most at-risk city, and as landscape architects who got some tools as profession that can contribute to the climate solution, I think I would like to contribute my ability and save my hometown from flooding and from being gone in the map. My experience as a childhood with flooding is so fun. It's actually part of my favorite time when I grew up in Bangkok. Flooding means the whole street and many other things turning into water, canal, the road turning into the rivers. And I'm actually having my favorite boat that my dad made it for us as part of the biggest toy I ever get from him. But after, when I was young, passing through these 30 years, flooding became disastrous. In 2011, as many of you may know, that there was a great flood in Bangkok, and that's actually turning the whole city into a big pond. And it's actually, and millions of people has to be displaced and homeless, including my family. So flooding no longer fun, flooding no longer clean, is actually really dirty with many waste, trash, and disease from the hospital and from many like landfills and things that when we escape this flooding, I'm actually have to taking care of my sick mom, which is really make me feel that this is a moment of death and life, that we have to do something with the flooding. And actually, it's not only that, it's also about the sea level rise, that we have turned the whole mangrove into the shrimp farm. And this is what left over for Bangkok. We have used many great infrastructure like concrete, like dams that we think is going to fix our problems in the long run, but it's actually, we need to build more higher dams each year. And with the pandemics that happened, it's actually put everyone on, I would say, on this planet on the same shoes. This is very normal situation in Bangkok. After 15 minutes or 20 minutes of rainfall, the whole city was shut down. With the climate change impact, there are also many other challenges that we are confronting with the problem of electronic waste or plastic waste that been import from many developed countries to our regions, because we don't have enough law to against this kind of things, and all this developing world actually don't want to eliminate through the process, so they actually import those things to our land. PM 2.5 twice every year. Drought, very much too much of water or too little of the water. This is actually the same system of the problem from the climate crisis that Bangkok and Thailand are confronting. And thinking about the whole country is actually based on agricultural product. It's actually, we are really at risk in the big picture. So I think we are at the point that we either adapt or we die. And so as a landscape architect in 2012, after experiencing this great flood that are, there were a competition about park, and it was the first park in 30 years chance that we have as a citizen living in almost 20 million people in this wetland. So as that opportunity, I grabbed to design a park that is resilient and showing the city and the people and all my community that we can do better off to living with flood. So this is Chulalongkorn Centenary Park, and it's actually on the flatland, the whole park incline to collect every drops of rain. In Bangkok, it's pouring rain. The pattern of rain is pouring, and it's very unexpected this day. So if the land is flat, we incline, we have a place that we save, and then the place that can hold the water. And this is a very basic gravity and cut and fill. And by inclining, we insert the architecture as part of our park. So the park itself got a green roof and the wetland and the retention pond that work as one system. And at the retention pond, the flood can double the size when it's flood, and the park is actually designed to flood. So I would like to really change that. It is impossible for Bangkok not to get wet, because we are the delta city where the land meets the sea, and this is the whole system of the canal and the river is actually flowed out to ocean to Bangkok. So I think the notion of resilience, amphibious living, and the Venice of the East needs to be reclaimed by making friends of living with water again. And this is some example in the park that people can come and exercise and bike, and really, of course, having a good health, and also really understand that what is the whole system of the water in the park, and what is the level of the water in each day that they comes to visit the park are different. So this is the park, and I'm very honored that 2 years ago, Mr. Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary, has came to the park and give a big support to this local solution. And also, the next thing that I'm wondering about being a landscape architect, and how could my design or working with architects and engineers be the solution can be for food security. And as throughout the pandemic, even Thailand is the land of food, the land of Thai food. Thai food is a big favorite cuisine for all, but actually during the pandemic, we are confronting with the food security. We get food as well, and especially for the poor, they actually having a hard time to survive through this incline of economics. And it's actually the first time that I haven't seen tourists in the city before. So it is actually the first time as I grew up and live in the city that I haven't seen any tourists. And so many of our people rely their incomes on the tourist industry. So this is the biggest urban rooftop in Asia at Thammasat University Urban Farm rooftop. Is actually the area of the roof, the whole roof is 22,000 square meters, and it's got a plant area of 7,000 square meters. And the whole roof is actually not just the green roof, it's also combined with the solar roof and the public space and so many other things. Looking around your city, one of the most waste space in the urban development is the roof space, because it's all concrete, the hidden areas of the infrastructure, and that's create us much problems in terms of urban heat island. So all these buildings actually create heat, and when it's come to the season of PM 2.5 plus urban heat island, the whole city is actually become like a smoke areas, and it's really bad to the citizens to catch easily the lung cancer. And if that waste space can actually become a solution to our climate crisis, I think this is a big opportunity. So the idea is actually coming from the rice terraces, and to slow down the runoff, to catch up the rain. Thinking about all the buildings in Bangkok, haven't thought about the drainage for the overall picture. So when it's pouring rain, all the rains actually flood the public sewage. But if each building can help hold on the water, like monkey chic concept that we love to have, like a retention areas, this is actually can be part of the solution of that waste space. And when the water gradually drain to gravity, is create us and food that close to our homes or in the buildings. So as you can see that this is the pattern that the water is coming through, and it's actually slowed down the runoff 20 times when you compare to the normal runoff. With the solar roof, it can help pumping the water that we have the retention pond at the end to pump up, and then use the gravity to drain the water. So through all year round, the new generation can learn how to be a farmer, knowing that where's their food come from, and actually be part of the climate solution of how they eat, how the food come from, and all the waste food from the canteen can be fertilizer to this big, huge green roof. So having just this green roof is actually plug in the circular economies approach to this campus. And with the public space, with many other programs, the waste space no longer something useless and create us the problems. And you can imagine that the younger generation need to be part of this solution, and they need to see the possibility. And I'm so glad that these two projects actually happen at the universities. Also, this is such an honor that this project's got the award from the Architecture A+, which is the year best. And I'm glad because it's an architecture award, but this work is actually a good combination of how landscape architects work with architects. And when we combine together from the beginning of the project, is really powerful. And I think the world in crisis right now actually need us, all professions, to work together to create more innovations that help us confronting the more challenge that we will have. And when talking of the waste space, this is another project that turning the leftover infrastructure, like all these white elephants that through the corrupted, through the process that has to stop. In Bangkok, there are some of this project left unused, and this is the bridge that left unused for 40 years and is amputated. So we turn it into the first park across the river in any capital. By using the old structure, it's become the first pedestrian bridge across Chao Phraya River, which is like the main river of Bangkok, and giving the best access to the feet, to the people to experience the riverfront, which is normally occupied by 5-star hotel. If you want to have that experience, you have to pay a lot of money, or either has been occupied by informal settlement. So even for us coming from the city of water, we really have a slim chance to see the water. So this is another great opportunity to turn this left infrastructure, and it's so narrow, it's only 8.5 meters and 2 meters long. So we twist the form and create the level so people can really experience the view and actually be a little bit far from the heavy traffic that parallel this park bridge. This is actually a lot of attempt at working together with the government of the BMA, the governors, and also the team of urban design and architects that really push this thing towards. And as a landscape architect, I'm really honored to have this solution that create more new type of public space to the waste space. So from the vacant to vibrant space that we actually need, especially the importance of public space in the times of pandemics. And there are many other waste space that we are part of, like turning an empty helipad, the unused one, into the biggest healing garden for the hospital. Is such a best place to relax for all those medical staffs, and also using the waste in the hospital. So I just feel that when we talk about architecture, landscape architecture, we can no longer thinking only just the design, but we have to really understand what challenges that we are confronting, and it's just more than one. And how could that the problem of food security, the PM 2.5, the flooding to the city, and the extinct of pollinator, and all these things can be just in one design, in one place that can reflect many solutions. And so this is the examples of how the waste space can turn. And the other key projects that we are working on, and I am working on right now with the governor of Bangkok, is revitalize the canals, which is so key. And in the past, you can see that we have Bangkok has more than like almost 3,000 canals, but now it's been left with 1,500 canals. So all these canals are disconnected to to not understanding that the landscape need the water to drain this whole city. And there are so many main canal has turned to become the main road of the city. And this is just the picture in the past. And right now the canal equal to sewage way. And we turn our back to the canals, put many infrastructure like bridge, SkyTrain into the canals. And I think, how can city of water survive without canals and without understanding that the canal are part of our life? So to reconnect one loop of the canal system is so important. It's actually starting from this project to connect this big two park. It's huge that we actually don't have enough water to water all this public park when it's drowned. So we left better off using the underground water, which is illegal. So right now, to fix that problem, we need to fix the canal system and to fix all this canal to be flow and drain, to be part of the flow and be part of the drainage of the system and be part of the public space again. And this is the canal we start with, and connect to this canal using the park to, in the past, all these things are connected, but nowadays it's actually been disconnected. So how could we create that connection? And this is me with the governor of Bangkok, just to see this canal in the middle of the CBD, one of the top 10 most smelly canal in Bangkok, and turn into the park. And this is the first park of Bangkok that is the canal park. And this is existing. You can see that the living with canal has been changed and shifted. So we turn it, it's actually in the process, but from the place of left unused, only think about drainage and sewage way into the place of, for people, is actually, if this canal is possible, it's actually gonna be possible for other canals around the city. And actually, I also very honored to be in Glasgow in UK for the COP26 to actually accept the award from the UN Global Climate Action Award from Women for Result. And meeting all these world leaders that talking about the climate change. But what I'm learning and what I feel is just, it's not fast enough, and we cannot fix the climate change to policy only, and every profession needs to step up and talking about it. I also be the representative for the IFLA, International Federation of Landscape Architects, around the world for 77 nations, to declare with the Architect 2030 with these people from AIA, from RIBAR, and from all the association, that our profession need to come together to slow down the heat of this earth, and from the world not to reach up to increase 1.5 degree Celsius in 2040. And we are playing an important part to this city. How the city look like right now is actually, the build profession is having a big responsibility on this. So I think this is a good sign. And with that, I also be a voice for my community. I'm not only working for the big projects that have budget, but also working with a vulnerable community, like community along the sea, the coastal line, that having the problem of in terms of human right, the land right, and also the sea level rise. And to help them, this fisherman village, to be able to be adapt to the climate crisis, and also using the way of designing the new housing to them, for them, and how the community need to live with the mangrove and be part of the legal system of the housing. This is the structure of the slow down the wave from the sea level rise. That is a research from Professor Thanawat, which is my teacher. And this actually can help because right now we destroy all the mangrove, that the wave hit the shore hardly, and the erosion create very badly throughout these communities or all the beach town in Thailand, which is like a big tourist destination. And but having this structure is actually using a great infrastructure, and as a landscape we try to introduce this nature-based solution, and by using that concrete structure with the affordable material that having in the community, can we use that to create the bamboo structure to slow down the waves and erosions and grow the mangrove. It's long process, but it's actually going to help the community along the coastline around Thailand to sustain the living with the nature. Also working with the dynamic, we cannot use the fixed solution like dams and jetty. We helping educating the people to be part of the nature-based solution and using their wisdom of being a fisherman village and being part of the mangrove, because it's actually the best place for small fish to grow and to nurture, to be a fishery nursery in these areas. So this is also fixing the housing problem, fixing the climate vulnerable communities, and also increasing the environmental solutions. There are so many there are so many climate vulnerable in many forms when it's come to water. The inland floodplain is actually another big community at risk in Thailand. We also working with them to understand the water pattern, that the dam might not be the best solution, because as you can see, the amount of water is the same, but it's actually not flooding you, but flooding another people downstream. So having a dam is actually not the good solution, and it's also flood behind the dam as well, because the water coming into many directions. So why dams? And I think when people in the rural area, they got this government budget, they don't really understand that, oh, this is, oh, we got a solution, but no, it's actually gonna change their lifestyle for good. And so as a landscape architects and architects, we actually help them seeing the project more in reality, that it's actually gonna change the way they see the landscape, change the way they commute, and change the way they access to the water itself. So it's how they want to communicate to their landscape and their neighbor. And it's actually really helpful and making the right decision when it's come to this big project from government, that the people need to be part of decisions. And when I mentioned about the climate impact, if the people are not part of the decision, and if the decision is too expensive and not doable within the community, this is not sustained. Climate solution need to be affordable, doable, and have to be fit to the local. So I think the future of the generation is actually our hope. And when I say this generation, is actually everyone who are breathing right now. And I think we need more hope and we need more action. And I think being a teacher is actually as part of, I am as part of myself as a landscape architect, and bringing students from around the world to really see the impact of climate change in Thailand. It's actually the real learning that design need to be localized, but the impact need to be global, that we all can be safe and save this planet. So thank you so much for having me in this masterclass. And I hope that we can make in the person and we will better fixing this climate crisis in this generation. And yes, we have no choice, either adapt or die. Thank you so much.